There we are.
Close.
There we are. There we are. Now I'm going to try something, Ruben.
Okay.
There we are. We are. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to try something, Ruben.
Okay.
And I'm going to post it on. I'm going to copy the URL and post it on Facebook. Post it on. I'm going to copy the URL and post it on Facebook. You know, I'm hearing this back at me. I'm hearing the echo come back.
Yeah, no. You're gonna hear a couple of loops.
You know, I'm hearing this back at me. I'm hearing the echo. Is that because I'm on YouTube?
Yeah, no. You're gonna hear a couple of loops.
I have to stop YouTube. If I stop YouTube, the echo stops.
Yeah, it will stop. Yeah.
That was funny. Wait, let me do this now.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to post this URL for the live show that you just posted, and then I'm going to put it on Facebook.
Correct.
Right? That's how I did it last week. Yeah. And it should link directly to YouTube.
Right to YouTube. Exactly.
Yeah. So life is good. Now I need to share it to a few groups. What's the crackling sound?
I was trying to get the music to start, and I think Gino did something while I was away.
Mozart's not cooperating?
Exactly.
He's so moody.
Oh, I see.
He was always like that. Ask anybody in Vienna.
Right. Very moody. Try something different here.
I was hard to work with. That's why he works for us. He can't get a sitcom gig.
See what's going on here. Oh. There we go.
Very good. All right, give me 1 minute and we'll start the show, okay?
Okay.
Rock and roll.
Okay, here we go. Just give me 1 second, Greg.
I'm really not feeling the music tonight.
No? Yeah, we could change it up later next time.
There it is. No, there it is. I'm hearing it better.
Trying to find my YouTube app here so I can see you. Okay, here we go. All right. And take it, Greg.
Welcome, everyone. It is 6:25 on Monday night. You're listening to the 218th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. If you're new to the show, I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We provide one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to thrive. We try to help young people avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face when they don't have a proper safety net. This program is brought to you every week at the same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is producing. As always, so good to have both of you with me, and so good to have you listening from your computers or in your cars in New Jersey, around the country, and even beyond. Please take a moment, if you're looking at us on Facebook, take care of the housekeeping things. Facebook, YouTube, hit all the buttons for me. We need you to like and subscribe and share. Those are the three key elements: like, subscribe, and share, because this has to be relevant to everyone in your world. The topics that we're going to talk about tonight apply to every geographic region, including where you live. This needs to be shared, so please share what you're hearing right now. If you want to know about child welfare, if you want to know about community betterment, this is where you come to get the whole truth. And I promise what you will hear tonight will not be on the nightly news. Boy, it's been 2 weeks since we've had a show. Weird stuff is happening, I gotta tell you. First, we have some crazy stories from Tennessee and Mississippi. You can judge for yourself about them. And then, of course, the bombshell story of the week. This actually is making headlines across media. The enhanced SNAP benefits, we're talking food stamp money here. The enhanced SNAP benefits that were put into effect during the COVID lockdown are set to end the day after tomorrow, March 1st, in 32 states. That is a huge story. That is going to put some people into homelessness. It's going to be very, very, very weird. You know who's going to be affected the most? The lowest income people. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We also have a big story tonight about the relationship between art and education. As we all know, arts, music, dance, art, we're all basically loped off of school budgets one at a time until they are virtually non-existent. We'll look at what are considered to be causal academic results of that missing developmental experience. We're not looking for correlative things. Those are things that happen at the same time but don't really have anything to do with it. People use correlatives to prove a point that's false. We're going to be looking for causal effects tonight of the relationship between teaching the arts in school and academic performance. Don't turn away now. A lot of strange tales from across the country, and I have fabulous news about the Bridges to Employment program. The Bridges to Employment program is for youth who are in foster care or who have aged out of foster care between the ages of 16 and 24 in New Jersey. And if you are interested in this program, you can meet me in person, and I would love to meet you in person too. And there are 2 opportunities you have to do that: in March and again in April. On March 16th, Age Out Angels and Mercer County Community College, which is the partnership of Bridges to Employment, will be exhibiting at the annual Aging Out event held at the Rutgers Law Library in Newark, New Jersey. If you need address and information, just shoot me a private message on Facebook or something, or email me, greg@ageoutangels.org, and I'll be happy to give you the information. That's March 16th at the Rutgers Law Library in Newark, New Jersey. And on April 14th, this is April 14th now, probably the biggest event of the year is Umbrella's annual event called Passport to Education. As most of you know, Umbrella, if you're in New Jersey, is pretty much the leader among all the nonprofits when it comes to college. Helping people do, FAFSAs, finding financial aid, all of the things that you need to get into college. Passport to Education, probably the largest event of the year for youth and for caseworkers related to the foster care system. Age Out Angels will be exhibiting on the floor, but we will also be presenting the Bridges to Employment program in a separate breakout room, I believe, in the morning. On that day. So if you really want to get into the nuts and bolts of the program, you can with me in person on April 14th at Umbrella's annual event, Passport to Education. Two great opportunities for you to really learn why school was never like this before. Some people just can't attend traditional school. It's just how it is. There's a million reasons. You know them, I know them. And if you're in this situation, you know what your reasons are. And also, many times when people are in the foster care system, you have to expect that they're coming from a trauma background, and sometimes a double trauma background. I mean, it's very possible that they suffered various forms of early childhood trauma. And then, the removal from the home actually causes a secondary form of trauma when you're yanking a child away from, the only home they've ever known, even though, as you and I look at that home, we might consider it horribly abusive. It's their home. So the child feels an actual secondary trauma when they're removed from that home on many occasions. Now, think about that. If you've come from a trauma background or a double trauma background, including the removal from your biological home, how many tries can it take you to get back into the groove? That rhythm of coming back to school. And you know what I'm talking about when you think about the rhythm of going to school. It's how you go to sleep at night. It's how you wake up in the morning. It's how you dress. It's how you think about the day. It's all the things that go into going to school. That's the groove of going to school. And oh my God, if you have hair to do, hey, that's another hour of prep, right? So it's just not easy to go back to school all of a sudden. That's for real, man. But the point of the Bridges program is that this is a different kind of school. School was never like this. We help you get through all the way. And I understand a lot of kids in foster care think that they should be able to do everything on their own. They should just somehow be able to navigate every system and do it on their own. And the reason that they should be able to do that is because from a very young age, it's drilled into their heads that no one's going to do it for you. No one is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. If you don't do it for yourself, you fail. And I've heard so many foster children say things to me like, well, it looks like I'm going to end up in a shelter tonight. I guess that's what I deserve. No, it's not what you deserve. So what I'm asking young people who are aging out of foster care to do is, if you can get over that obstacle and allow people who will help you and who respect you to become part of your life, then your future can be one of success. Plus, let me tell you, using our methods, you can do it 4 times faster. There's a young lady going to come into our program who's 17 years old, and there's a chance for her to graduate faster than her class. Hello. So using our methods, it can be done, but you got to let us in, and you have to come in. You have to meet us halfway, and you have to let us in, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help you, and that, I understand, can be extremely difficult. And if you try and you don't make it through the first time, we don't forget about you. Anybody who's out there who is a Bridges student at any point in time knows for a fact that whenever you join the program, whether you finish it or not, we never forget about you. The door is always open. So don't be afraid to talk about this and see if this is the one chance for you to finish high school, make more money for the rest of your life than you expected. Email me directly, greg@ageoutangels.org, or private message me on Facebook. In fact, we're hoping that you'll help us spread the word. We have a new 2020 component in the Bridges program that will enable youth who are really committed. This is if you're in the group of people who is totally committed. You do the 2020 program, which is where you do school for 20 hours a week and you do work for 20 hours a week. That way you're doing enough school that you could probably graduate high school within a year, more than likely. And at the same time, you make a little extra spending money. It doesn't affect your benefits. You're developing a work reference. This is really important. A lot of kids leave a job without a reference. You should never do that because you need all the references you can get for better jobs and for apartments. References are all important. Anyway, you go to school 20 hours, you work 20 hours, and the rest of the time, be a kid. Just be a kid. You're allowed. So if you haven't finished high school, wherever in the foster care system in New Jersey, and are tired of being poor, the answer is waiting for you, and I promise you, school will never get better than this. And the fact is, if you can drag yourself through regular high school, do it. I still think that's a better option, especially if you're under 18. But some people just can't. There's a lot of reasons, and none of those reasons changes the fact that we are wasting good talent, and in many cases, subsidizing people through low-income subsidies for the rest of their lives, which is not necessary. Where is the part where we realize that the current education structure leaves 5 million students behind? Remember, no student left behind? Well, guess what? 5 million students are left behind. And that's just a system that perpetuates a subculture that can almost never arise to prosperity, and you're better than that. So please get in touch with me. Let's talk about Bridges to Employment. Bunch of news stories. These came from News 5 in Memphis, Tennessee this week. They're not all from Tennessee, although the first two are, and they are doozies. Starting with a proposed bill in the Tennessee Senate would allow law enforcement officers to carry guns even while under the influence. Darlene Clark sent me this story. Actually, she posted it on Facebook in her Facebook page, Shattered Innocence. Senate Bill 827 was proposed by Senator Joey Hensley, a Republican from a district called Hohenwald, I guess in Tennessee. The bill states, as introduced, allows law enforcement officers to carry a firearm when under the influence of alcohol or controlled substances and certain other circumstances. Ooh, the only thing that can stop a bad person with a gun is an intoxicated cop with a gun. The bill would also allow people to carry firearms on higher education campuses and in parks, plus prohibits the carrying of weapons in K-12 schools, except by certain persons, including any person permitted to carry a firearm under federal law. Too many goddamn guns. The bill was referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee on February 6th. A similar bill was introduced into the House by Republican Todd Warner. House Bill 977 was introduced at the same time and assigned to the Civil Justice Committee. So there's two bills to make guns more prevalent in Memphis. I don't know. What do you say about it? It's just, to me, it's just crazy. More guns doesn't solve the gun problem. It seems counterintuitive to me that more guns will solve the gun problem. It's just wrong. Nashville, Tennessee, here you go. If you thought that was a little on the nutsy side, let's go to straight up, what's the term, batshit crazy? The Tennessee Senate passed a bill aimed at criminalizing public drag performances. Senate Bill 3 would classify adult cabaret performances as a Class A misdemeanor if done on public property or where it can be viewed by a person who is not an adult. Now, none of us actually has a problem with that, okay? None of us actually thinks that material and entertainment that is suitable for an adult is suitable for a child. None of us thinks that. Anybody who thinks that being liberal means you should expose children to things that are not appropriate, sexual things that are not appropriate for them. Anyone who thinks that is a stark raving idiot. That is not how liberals think. So let's get that off at the top. And I'm going to tell you what's wrong with this bill, because on surface, the answer is nothing. Nothing's wrong with it. The bill identifies adult cabaret performances as anything that features topless dancers. Do we take children to see topless dancers? We do not. Go-go dancers, well, not necessarily, although go-go dancers were on TV like in the 1960s, so I don't know what the big deal was there. Exotic dancers, okay, that sounds like it certainly walks a line where wouldn't want the kids. Strippers, right? We don't want the kids to see strippers. Male or female impersonators, here's where it falls apart, who provide entertainment that appeals to a prurient interest. A prurient interest. Does anyone out there know what a prurient interest is? Because it has a definition. A prurient interest is having or encouraging an excessive interest in sexual matters. So what they're doing here is they're saying that if there's a gay pride parade, for example, and people who do female impersonators have floats and go up and down the street, that they could be arrested, charged with misdemeanors for violating this law, because that would classify that parade as an adult cabaret performance. So this is what this is nothing designed to protect children. You know, and so how do we define this? Would be found by the average person. Tell me what the average person is in America right now, okay? But would be found by the average person applying a contemporary community standards to appeal predominantly to the prurient, shameful, or morbid interests of minors. This is absolutely they should call this, you know, the "we're going to kick the gays out of our town" bill. That's what this is. Bunch of sick bastards. The bill was sponsored by Senator Jack Johnson of Franklin, Tennessee. If you want to have that kind of entertainment in your private business, that's fine. You just can't let the kids in. No one lets the kids in, asshole. Nobody does. This is already covered, except for the part where you won't let a gay pride parade happen in public. It was approved. This was a 26-6 vote. All the Senate Democrats opposed the measure. They filed this the day after Election Day. Made it very clear that the priorities of the Tennessee General Assembly were to discriminate against the LGBTQ community and not real issues. This is what a lot of these local area governments are doing right now, and to a large degree the state governments. They're not dealing with issues like crime. They're saying, like, this is how we're dealing with crime. We're going to kick gays out of your town. There, we're the law and order party. Crime, jobs, healthcare. That, according to Shaheen Samiai, Shelby County representative of the Tennessee Equality Project. So anyway, I don't know what you say about people who just knock themselves out to discriminate against gay and transgender people. It's just so wrong. Now, here's another story that we're not going to dwell on because it's just that stupid. But you should know that a man was arrested for sexually abusing a dog in Louisiana. So it's just in the department of, if you wonder how people can be so stupid and do things that are so stupid, well, a man was arrested for sexually abusing a dog in Louisiana. And in Senatobia, Mississippi, a former DeSoto County teacher has been sentenced to 20 years in prison with 10 years of supervised release for sexually abusing a teenage girl in 2021. In January, Evan Brooke Red pleaded guilty to sexual battery to a 14 to 15-year-old child and fondling. She was sentenced Thursday. According to DeSoto County Schools, Red was hired in 2020 as a DeSoto County middle school teacher. In October of 2021, Senatobia police said they received information from a juvenile that she was sexually abused by Red at a residence located on East Gilmore Street in Senatobia. After police gathered evidence and conducted numerous interviews, investigators executed a search warrant at the residence and arrested Red. Boy, well, I mean, you think you're sending your kid to school and they'll be safe there. And it turns out that that may not necessarily be the case. All right, so the big story, huh? This is actually coming off of NBC Newswire by J.J. McCorvey and Rob Wiley. When a pandemic aid that has boosted food stamp benefits gets cut in 2 days, millions of low-income Americans will confront smaller balances in the accounts they used to pay for groceries. And guess who's bracing for the spike in demand? Food banks. Food banks. If you donate to food banks, this would be a great time to do it as of March 1. The emergency allotment for individuals and households enrolled in the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's the SNAP food stamp program, will end in 32 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. That means recipient households will see their monthly grocery allocations reduced by at least $95, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a left-leaning research and policy think tank. In daily terms, that equates to trimming the roughly $9 per person average to about $6.10. So you got to feed your family on $6.10 per person per day. Hey, you know, we should try that. Let's do a, we'll do it in April, okay? Let's do, or maybe May in honor of May is Foster Care Awareness Month. Let's do it in May. Let's see if we can feed our families on $6.10 per person per month and see how that comes out. And of course, the change comes when food prices in January at least had increased 10% over the same month in the previous year. Now, Charles Jones, this is a story about Charles Jones, a 63-year-old U.S. military veteran based in Rockford, Illinois. Now, check this out. The guy's 63. He's a vet, okay? Everybody sees him on the street. They salute him and go, thank you for your service. Well, a lot of good that's doing him. He received an enhanced monthly SNAP benefit of $281 under the temporary program, okay? After it ends next week, his payments will plummet to $23. He's going to go from $281 to $23, which is the minimum monthly amount. His quote is, when they cut this extra benefit from SNAP, that's going to put me in a serious problem. He said his pandemic-era SNAP payments helped him move out of a homeless shelter, can you dig it, and into a $650 a month studio apartment earlier this month. He said he's concerned that when his allotment is slashed, likely because he also receives Social Security disability insurance payments, okay, his rent and utilities will consume all of his income, jeopardizing his new shot at stability. It helped me a lot, said Jones, who also relies on boxed pantry deliveries, but said he often can't eat much of their contents because of a heart condition. So, I mean, you know what happens when you get a lot of handout food, a lot of the times it's you know, fat and sugar, carbs, heavy carbs, it's calorie food. We used to call it scout food because you load the scouts up with calories and then they run wild for a day and then you load them up with calories again. You know how the government is, he says. They want to keep the rich rich and the poor poor. Stacey Dean, Deputy Undersecretary for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which administers the SNAP program, acknowledged that the emergency benefits had proved powerful for recipients. That can't be underscored enough in the difference it's made in mitigating increases in hunger and addressing economic hardship and poverty, Dean said. She added that while the program's expiration, quote, will be very difficult, the extra aid it delivered, she says, quote, was always designed to be temporary. You know, it's not temporary. When inflation raises prices, that's not temporary. They keep going up. How come this was always designed to be temporary? Why do we hear the word sunset? This program is sunsetting. This program is ending and screwing people. More than 42.3 million people participated in SNAP as of October, the latest period for which federal data was available. Participation hadn't previously surpassed that level since the summer of 2020. The program's total cost for physical 2021 was $113.68 billion, according to the Congressional Research Service. That included 9 months of a 15% increase to the maximum benefit as part of the emergency allotments. Well, 113.68 billion, and we sent 75 billion to Ukraine. Come on. It's peanuts. When we send the 75 billion to Ukraine, people get on CNN and they go, hey, you know what? Not so much money, $75 billion. Why, it's only 0.001 of our gross domestic product, or 0.000 whatever of our total budget for this or that. That's what they say. But here, 113 billion for food stamps. People go, oh my God, we better cut that. What are we doing? Taking care of our own people? We must be crazy. Research by the Urban Institute, a Washington-based nonpartisan think tank for economic and social policy, found that the enhanced SNAP benefits kept 4.2 million people above the poverty line. How do you like that? In the final quarter of 2021, lowering overall poverty by 10% and child poverty by 14%. Tell me why this is a bad thing that has to end. The study also found that the emergency program helped reduce poverty rates most steeply among, guess who? Black and Latino recipients. Illinois is one of the 32 states that had allowed the enhanced SNAP benefits to extend to the federal March 1 deadline, but many others, including Florida, Arkansas, Georgia, and Mississippi, had already chosen to end the emergency allotment, in some cases as early as 2021. So this is the 32 states who kept it alive this long. But man, you could see this: Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas. What the hell are you doing in that group? You can understand why not Texas, huh? You'd have to wonder why Texas is in the group of people who does things on purpose to hurt their residents. Food banks in those areas say they've seen sharply higher demand since SNAP benefits were reduced, and relief organizations in the remaining states are now scrambling to strategize. We saw what happened in other states where they ended so early, said Laura Lester, chief executive of the Feeding at Alabama Food Bank Network, which serves a state where the extra aid cuts out next week. In Georgia, which ended its enhanced benefits last May, the Atlanta Community Food Bank told NBC News earlier this month that visits had increased 34% through December. Wholesome Wave Georgia, a nonprofit that administers a program that matches SNAP dollars spent on local produce, said the total numbers of families it has served since the emergency allotment expired was already approaching its typical annual figures, though the group didn't attribute its recent demands solely to SNAP changes. We're just currently preparing ourselves for that, is what they say. In part to counter the emergency benefit expiration, the Community Food Bank of Central Alabama has boosted its annual budget to $10 million from $8.9 million last year. It said the organization said it spent more than $5 million last year purchasing food to donate, up from the $3.2 million in 2021. So you can see that this is what's going to happen here when it expires in these other 32 states is a very predictable behavior based on the states that it's already expired in. So this is not something that's being made up by the loony left or anything that's really debatable. You can look at the other states, know what the facts are, and then just say, well, hey, when we were doing this, we had 14% more children above the poverty line. And other stuff kicks in at that moment, like those kids who are suddenly above the poverty line, they can go to school now and find out they don't qualify for free lunch. So there can actually be negative ramifications of being just above the line, but still, it just doesn't make sense that we would put people in that kind of situation where somebody who was homeless now isn't homeless could suddenly go back to being homeless again, especially a veteran. Do you love your veterans or don't you? Because we say we do, but we certainly act like we don't. In October, the USDA issued a 12.5% cost of living adjustment to the maximum SNAP benefit, but the full impact on recipients' finances in a period of high inflation remains unclear because eggs that were $1 are now $4 a dozen. So 12.5%, it was good, but just doesn't measure up to inflation. Another adjustment is expected in the fall. In 2021, the USDA also undertook a top-to-bottom reevaluation of Americans' dietary needs and food costs and increased the maximum SNAP benefits by 21%. Okay, well, that's making progress. Still, some advocates and economists warn that many low-income Americans' finances are in perilous shape, even as the country moves beyond the pandemic. Indeed, the USDA's estimate for the cost of a thrifty, balanced monthly meal plan for a family of 4 with grade school age children has increased by around 50% since before the pandemic, from about $654 in January 2020 to $978 in January 2023. That is gospel, ladies and gentlemen. Those are words you can live by. I can tell you, as someone who does the shopping, that's real. $654 for a family of 4 with grade school age children, up to $978. So say $650 to $1,000. That's right. And nowhere is that being accounted for, not in wages, not in Social Security money, not in anything, except cost. SNAP is our most effective tool at fighting hunger, said Dottie Rosenbaum, a senior fellow who studies the program at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Now that this temporary boost is coming to an end in all states, families who are already struggling to afford the rising cost of food and other expenses are going to feel a big impact. In a recent survey, Bankrate published Thursday, 39% of U.S. adults reported having less savings than last year, and 10% who had no emergency savings last year still have none this year. As financial buffers dwindle, the SNAP enhancements have provided a crucial, if partial, cushion for many Americans, said Mark Hamrick, chief economic analyst at Bankrate. Cutting them now is removing a social safety net component that is going to cause some people to face food insecurity. He said the expiration or lack of availability of this benefit really couldn't occur at a less opportune time. Of course, it's what do you call it? It's the tsunami, the perfect storm, where what you have is money coming in, being decreased while cost increases. It's the perfect storm. Hey, if you need a new car and you're anywhere near Neptune, New Jersey or East Windsor, stop by and see Paul Sansone Jr. and his auto mall. I always encourage people to do that. All Paul had to do was give a car away to one of our foster youth in need, and that's all it took. So please, if you're anywhere near Neptune, New Jersey or East Windsor, New Jersey, you need a car, stop in and see Paul Sansone Jr. and let him know you heard about it right here on the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. Jill Barchet wrote an interesting article. It's about 2 weeks ago, I think. And it had to do with the relationship of arts, or actually the lack of arts being taught now in public schools, and how that affects education. So let me just give you a taste of this. It's why learn art at all, huh? The arts have been a part of public education almost from the beginning. 19th century education reformer Horace Mann, the father of American public schools, believed that the arts enhanced learning. He made drawing and music part of the Massachusetts curriculum for common schools. They were called common schools then. Many decades later, labor unions and progressives saw the arts as a way for the working class to develop intellectually and be empowered. And that's how we knew the arts to be. When we were growing up, we were taught that the arts are something that just somehow makes you more intelligent, gives you a greater perspective on life or the world or something. And also, wonderful talking for college students, I guess, and, people who are spending their first time sitting in cafes and debating the points of the day. Arts education steadily increased throughout most of the 20th century, but in the 1970s, the arts began to fall victim to fiscal crises and budget cuts. Arts classes were further squeezed out after a 2001 federal law required schools to test children annually. Of course, that's when schools started teaching the test. That, I believe, that coincides with No Child Left Behind, right? And then that's when schools started to teach the tests, basically. Schools with low test scores felt pressure to devote more time to reading and math. Yeah, I got a low score. You're the principal, you say, oh, come on, we're going to have an extra math class. Don't talk to me about music right now. My school's under pressure from the federal government. Then the 2008 recession slashed school budgets even more. Of course, art was hit severely. The poorest students were sometimes left with no art in school at all. And we're using the word art in the general umbrella sense of, music, drama, dance, painting, sculpting, all the things that go into what would be considered the arts. Arts advocates grew increasingly alarmed and marshaled evidence for why the arts matter. Proponents made claims for how instruction in the arts raises grades, boosts SAT scores, and increases the rate of going to college. In Houston, Texas, now this is where some studies were actually done, almost 30% of the schools had no fine arts teachers in 2013 and 2014. 30% of schools, no fine arts teachers. The city's art community, from the Houston Ballet to the Alley Theater and the Houston Symphony, wanted to rectify this, and together with philanthropies, offered low-cost art performances, field trips, and education programs to schools. The schools would have to kick in only $5 to $10 per student for the year. Well, what do you think happened? You want to guess? More schools signed up than the program could handle. And this provided a rare opportunity to put arts education to a rigorous test to see what its benefits and opportunity costs really are. Researchers randomly assigned 21 elementary and middle schools to receive arts education first and watch what happened to 8,000 of their students in grades 3 through 8. They compared them with 8,000 students at 21 other schools that had to wait and didn't get the extra arts for at least a couple of years. You're all expecting the answer to go in one direction, aren't you? Well, let's see. The students in both groups were demographically similar. 1/4 of the students were Black, 2/3 were Hispanic. More than 85% of their families were poor enough to qualify for free or reduced price lunch. Of course, it wasn't a blind test. You can't do that. The students knew they were getting art and there was no placebo. It's not like a drug test. But it's as close as you can get to a pharmaceutical drug trial using the education system. The arts programming itself ranged a lot. Some artists visited the schools and taught a series of weekly lessons in dance or theater. Other times, students went on field trips to museums where art educators explained paintings and sculptures. Sometimes it was a one-off symphony performance with a discussion afterward. Okay, so what are the results? After at least a year of this artistic potpourri, the academic performance of students in math, reading, and science was no different for those who got more art. Their state test scores were neither better nor worse than students who didn't get art. To the researchers, that was good news. There's no question mark in the article, but there is one in my mind right now, because I thought we were all expecting art and education to make a major impact on academia. Here's the quote: schools that are struggling in math or reading are worried about where they can make space in the schedule to squeeze art in. They worry that math and reading is going to get worse if we add the arts, said Daniel Bowen, an associate professor at Texas A&M University and one of the study's co-authors. That didn't happen. So what we were all thinking, which is that the kids who got art would do so much better, but that didn't happen, right? What the researchers were thinking is that the worriment was that by taking art away from students, especially students, I mean, we're talking about the poorer the lower income students who score lower in the tests, right? They were worried that by taking arts away from those kids, that they would do even worse, and that didn't happen either. So while art won't ruin math scores, the researchers found that art led to improvements in other areas like student behavior and other social, emotional skills that students need. Case in point, disciplinary infractions were 3.6 percentage points lower among students who had more art exposure, according to the study. Investigating causal effects of arts education. This is the name of the study, Investigating the Causal Effects of arts education. Published online in the Journal of Policy Analysis and Management, November 2022, the schools without art, in the schools without art, 14.5% of students were disciplined compared to only 10.9% of students in schools with art. And remember, this is a demographically homogeneous cohort. The researchers also detected an increase in students' compassion for others or emotional empathy. Empathy is something we don't see based on student surveys. The surveys also found that elementary school students, who made up the majority of the students in the study, were more engaged in school and had stronger college aspirations. During the study, the researchers conducted focus groups with principals who said it was hard to make the case for art when they're under pressure to raise math scores. It's the same story, right? And there is something that sounds like it would be common sense about that, right? It's hard to argue with. This study, the researchers said, can help school leaders argue that arts foster soft skills that can be just as, if not more important than the test scores to children's futures. And I'm adding here also that nobody got hurt by it. Scores didn't go down as a result of it. There's good reason to believe that arts education just improves student engagement. Simple. It is something that can make learning more intriguing and fun and interesting. And that's what we found, said Brian Casita, an assistant professor at Truman School of Government and Public Affairs at the University of Missouri, and the other co-author of the study. That higher student engagement, however, didn't translate into better school attendance. That's a shame. Absenteeism was similar for both groups of schools, with and without art. So it's not a magic bullet, you know, but there's no reason to take it away. The only academic benefit from art at all was in one aspect of writing, as measured by Texas state assessments. Students who'd received more art lessons demonstrated stronger ideas and thoughts, but not writing mechanics such as spelling or grammar. So maybe their imaginations were allowed to flourish a little bit more. You could see that. Could you see how allowing a student's imagination to expand just a little bit, like in all of this information, right? What's important? Because boy, you know, in order to make time for things like art, music, dance, students need like empirical evidence all the time. Or not students, but funders need empirical evidence. Isn't it enough that there is some, let's call it soft evidence, right? That students who were exposed to the arts maybe had slightly more expanded imaginations. And how come we can't sell it just on that? I mean, where do all the brilliant ideas come from but the imaginations of children, you know, who grow up and some realize them as adults? That's where they come from. That's where all the great ideas come from. So isn't that enough? A dose of reality. Everyone wonders if it's a disappointment not to see greater academic benefits, but the researchers say don't. Casita explained that most of the academic claims made by arts proponents are dubious at best. There's no one there claiming that that's what they were expecting. No one is saying that. Yes, students who take more art classes tend to be better students. There's no proof that the arts are making them smarter. That wasn't a part of this. That's not causal in this. It could be collaborative, but not causal. We don't know if it's the arts that are doing the heavy lifting there, or if it's just that students are interested in the arts whose parents push them into the arts are also students who excel in other areas. There's no way to know that. This large randomized controlled trial of art proves that academic gains, at least in the short run, are unlikely. So this is also a healthy dose of reality for arts advocates. And as I would be an arts advocate, that's not the way to sell it. Don't sell it like academic gains. Sell it like it's important for the whole culture forever. Maybe that'll get some attention. To be sure, cognitive scientists and literacy experts believe that knowledge of the world is important for reading comprehension and critical thinking. One reason is because it's easier to absorb a new reading passage if a student is already familiar with the topic. But it would likely take years of accumulated art knowledge and dozens of museum visits and theater performances to see reading comprehension improve. So you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic about what that will do. But I will tell you that um, when I went to college, it certainly was affordable. And we went to college to get a liberal arts education. And that liberal arts education was for you to be exposed to enough different things and study them to a degree where you could decide what you really wanted to devote the rest of your life to doing. And I think there was nothing more wonderful in the whole wide world than a liberal arts education. I am so glad, that I got it. I am so grateful to like Rowan University, for being there and offering that to me at a price I could afford. These are all things that, I think made me the whole person that I am. And I see young people today who have no understanding of that at all. And it's because it's never given to them. Never. So in my final words tonight, I want to go over the whole list of examples of white privilege that you may never have thought of, written by a Black woman, Ella Alexander, in Harper's Bazaar in 2021, and like true to this day. And she says these are examples of white privilege. She writes, "I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time." I guess a Black person, if you're out there working and you're working in white world, you can't arrange to be in company of people of your race most of the time. Number two, if I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting, or this is laughable if it wasn't so sad. I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford, in which I would want to live. So many stories about discrimination against people of color, both selling and buying these days. Number three, I can be pretty sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me. Nobody expects their neighbor to just like love them and welcome them with open arms and send over tuna casseroles. That's not, but just to not be hostile. That would be nice, right? Number four, example of white privilege you probably haven't thought of, because we don't. If a Black family moves in next door, do you wonder if they're thinking, how is that white family next to me going to behave? Are they going to like be hostile to me because of the color of my skin? Do we even ever think about things like that? Number four, I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. Yes, well, that's very common that a Black person in a store will be followed, will be suspected of being there to steal. Number five, I can turn on the television or open to the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented, only if it's criminal, body bags, that sort of thing. Then you will see Black people represented all the time. Otherwise, no, mostly all white guys. When I'm told about our national heritage or about civilization, I am shown that people of my color made it what it is. Wow. They're trying their hardest right now in Florida to make sure that no people of color or people who are gay ever existed in the state of Florida. That includes the indigenous population, right? Number seven, I can be sure that my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. And of course, leaving the subject on Florida, you can be certain that absolutely will not happen in this state. If I want to, I can be pretty sure of finding a publisher for this piece on white privilege. Harper's Bazaar, well, they took a chance, huh? Because you would have thought maybe Jet. Number nine, I can go into a music shop and count on finding the music of my race represented. I can go into a supermarket and find the staple foods that fit with my culture or traditions. I can go into a hairdresser shop and find someone who can cut my hair. That's all one thing. That's all one thing about like the neighborhood where you live. Can you imagine if you're white and you're listening to this? Can you imagine like not finding those things, not going into a music store and finding, music that's tuned to, your race, or into a supermarket and not finding foods, that fit with your cultural traditions. Can you imagine not finding hair care products? Well, I don't really have that problem anymore, but number 10, whether I use checks, credit cards, or cash, I can count on my skin color not to work against the appearance of financial reliability. Number 11, I can arrange to protect my children most of the time from people who might not like them. Ooh, that's brutal. Number 12, I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes or not answer letters without having people attribute these choices to the bad morals, the poverty, or the illiteracy of my race. Boy, that's where those people, right? Look how those people dress. Look how those people. Number 13, I can speak in public to a powerful male group without putting my race on trial. Can a black female speak in public to a powerful male group without being judged by the color of her skin? Is it even possible? Number 14, I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. I know there have been times when to my religion, I've been referred to as one of the good ones. Makes your skin crawl. Number 15, I am never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group. So how do you black people feel about this? Yeah. Number 16, I can remain oblivious of the language and customs of persons of color who constitute the world's majority without feeling in my culture any penalty for such oblivion. I don't know if that's possible now or not. Okay? I think if you're a person of color, there's an expectation now that you will be more culturally aware. Anyone can write or call. You can't call right now, but you can write on Facebook and tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to have that discussion. Number 17, I can criticize our government and talk about how much I fear its policies and behavior without being seen as a cultural outsider. Well, I think that's what group you do it in, regardless. I think if you're, well, no, I shouldn't think. I should just let this woman speak. Number 18, I can be pretty sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I'll be facing a person of my race. If you ask to talk to the person in charge, there's a good chance you'll be talking to a white person if you're a black woman. About that. 19, if a traffic cop pulls me over, or if the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race. Well, what do you think? Number 20, I can easily buy posters, postcards, picture books, greeting cards, dolls, toys, and children's magazines featuring people of my race. That's number 20. Let's dwell on that for just a second. Dolls, toys, and children's magazines featuring people of my race. Right now I'm in Florida, and the governor of Florida is working so hard to exclude as many people as possible. And here you have a black woman asking simply for children's magazines featuring people of her race. And at the way this governor is going right now, his time is not being spent on making sure that there's children's magazines, toys, dolls, games, that people are included. He's going out of his way to make sure that people are not included. And he just did the sickest thing with Disney World, to put Disney World in a position where they could be fined, people could be arrested for, I don't know, for violating this perceived gayness or whatever. It happens to be that they feel are now influencing children in a way that are derogatory, that aren't. But that's what he's spending his time on. Now, here's a woman who's telling you real things that impact her in her everyday life. Why aren't we dealing with those things? These are real things. She takes the time to write them. Should they fall on deaf ears? I don't think so. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week. I want to say thanks to our producer, Robin, to our engineer, Ruben. And Ruben, I want to tell you this. Everybody meet me back here next week because we decided before the show tonight that Ruben is going to be my guest next week. And I'm going to tell you why. Ruben Rodriguez, ladies and gentlemen, our mild-mannered engineer, just spent the last week filming at the Texas-Mexico border by where the border wall is, or a portion of the border wall, hasn't been completed or something. And we see it as a tremendous opportunity to get information about the immigration process and everything else that he saw directly from his eyes. And if you get a chance to see the YouTube version of this program, I'm hoping that Ruben will. He's a photographer and professional filmmaker. I'm hoping that he'll provide some visual pictures and films and things like that we can add to this program so that you can actually see what's going on. We'll give it the whole time. We'll give it the whole time of the show. And let's give you what you're not going to hear on the news. Okay? Let's make a date next week. We're going to give you what I promise you are not going to hear on the news. So let's do it again next week, same time. Stay safe, everybody. And until next time, let's make this week the best week ever. Good night, everyone.